So good morning students. In today's video we are going to cover the theories of mountain building. Okay. So basically Wagner, firstly what he says about mountain building is that there is a tertiary period. Okay, there's a tertiary period where in that particular period, because of the friction and resistance friction and resistance, because of these two forces, mountains means fold mountains are formed, such as Rockies, Andes and Alps. Okay, so what he says, what Wagner says, just a second, make it a little fancier. So what the Wagner says about the mountain building is that there is a tertiary period, okay, in which there are a lot of mountains formed because of the friction and the resistance of these layers of earth. You know, we have layers inside the like Sigma, Cl, etc. So because of the friction and resistance between these layers, mountains formed and mountains formed such as Rockies, Andes and Alps. Okay, this is what he says in his theory. Now let's talk about the geosynclinal Orogen theory of cobble. So in this particular theory, what he says um, that the mountains form due to the cooling, contraction, cooling contraction of the Earth's surface. So mountains form due to the cooling and contraction of the sediments that are present inside the geosynclines. So we have already covered this. What does the geosynclines means? The depressions. Okay, these are the depressions on the Earth's crust. You know, just like this. So they are filled with sediments. Okay, so the cooling and contraction of the Earth causes uh, cause the formation of these geosynclines, and sediments that are deposited in these geosynclines form the mountains. Okay, this is what he says in his theory. Base of his theory. So what is the base? Firstly, you have to understand these important terms related to his theories: geosynclines or Oregon. This particular line, words and cratogen. This particular word. You have to understand this. So, what this geosynclines or Oregon means, he called mobile zones of water. According to him, mobile means that are movable zones of water. are called the geosynclines or Oregon in his theory. And the Cratogen are the mobile zones of geosyncline but surrounded by rigid masses. And those मतलब कि that means that means कि that geosynclines or Oregon, these mobile zones of water are surrounded by the rigid masses, and those are called the cratogens. Okay, Cooper identifies six major periods of mountain building, and the three mountain building periods means he says there are six major periods of the mountain building, in which three happens during the Precambrian period. Okay, and the fourth one is the uh, Paleozoic. Paleozoic era saw two major building periods. The Caledonian orogenesis was completed by the end of Silurian period, and the orogeny was culminated in Permo-Carboniferous period. ठीक है, so these two periods are means they are very difficult to say, and the last sixth period is known as Alpine orogeny, completed during Tertiary epoch. So these names are very complex. So you can search them on internet. That would be more better. Okay. For now, just remember. For now, you can search these six name of these six periods on the internet. That today's homework. Let me write it now. Okay. Today's homework is to find six major periods of mountain building that that Cooper identified. Okay, so Cooper identified these six major periods of mountain building. You have to search their names. Okay, so for now, just remember Cooper identified six major mountain building periods. So these are some important terms related to his theory. The first is the geosynclines or Oregon. Second is cratogen. Mechanism of the theory. So he says that three closely linked stages lead to the formation of mountains, and those three stages are litho lithogenesis. Second one is orogenesis, and the third one is glyptogenesis. So these three periods are in means these three periods means Cooper says in his theory that these three periods lead to the formation of mountains. So firstly we have this lithogenesis period in which sediment deposition happen. Sediment deposition happen. In the second orogenesis, compression folding mountain formation happens. Compression folding mountain formation happens, and glyptogenesis, erosion and lowering of mountain height, means erosion and decrease in mountain's height. So this is very thick. Sorry. So he says these are the three main periods for mountain formation. Lithogenesis, in this particular period, the sediments deposition happens. Okay, sediments deposition happens because in the geosynclines, as we see that these geosynclines, the depressions in that the sediments are deposited. So the geosynclines are long and wide mobile zones of water which are bordered by rigid masses which have been named by Cobber as forelands or cratogen. So this rigid masses is called foreland as well or cratogen. Okay, and these upstanding land masses of forelands are subjected to continuous erosion and are by fluvial processes, and eroded materials are deposited in the geosynclines. So what happens is the lands that are covering these means these geosynclines, these cratogens, continuous erosion happens. So because of that, the sediments here on the cratogens on the rigid masses are deposited into these geosynclines. Okay, and this process is called the sedimentation. So the ever increasing weight of the deposited sediments due to gradual sedimentation put enormous pressure on the beds of geosynclines, and because of that the geosynclines moves downwards or these depression forms. The second process is the compression, folding, or the things like that. So both the forelands started moving towards each other because of horizontal movement caused by the force of contraction resulting from the cooling of the earth. So what happens is as the I am going to erase all of this. So what happens? Let's see. So till now, this is how it looks, a very rough structure. These are the forelands or the cratogens. This is called the geosynclines or Oregon. So what happens is the these lands, these rigid masses experience erosion, and because of that, sediments are deposited into the geosynclines, and this causes this geosyncline to push downwards. Okay, and make a deeper depression. Okay, and in this is the first process, that is lithogenesis. In the orogenesis, the second process, in that these two forelands started to coming together because of the contraction, and those contraction happen that contraction happen because of cooling of earth. Okay, and the compressive force generated by the movement of foreland causes contraction, squeezing, and ultimately folding of sediments deposited in the geosyncline to form folded mountain ranges. So Because of this contraction, squeezing, the sediments present in the geosynclines, they also compress and they started to form the mountains. Okay. And if the compressive forces are normal and of the moderate intensity, only the marginal sediments of the geosynclines are folded to form two marginal ranges, and middle portion of the geosynclines remains unaffected by folding activity. So the if the pressure that these fold lines are making, if they are like of moderate intensity, so what happens is the mountains formed on the margins only. Margins, that means like here. Okay. And these, like, this middle space is empty, and this middle space which is unaffected, this is now called Ju is, let me write it down, the name is very complicated. Jewish Chen G. Birch. Okay, so Jewish Chen G. Birch. Okay, so this is what happens. This is what we call that unaffected area. Okay, so I hope the whole process is clear to you all. We have studied the Wagner theory of mountain building. We have studied the geosynclinal Orogen theory of cobble. So in this, we have, like, the name itself suggests his theory. Geosyncline, you know, or Oregon, both are the same in his theory, and his, like, Cratogens, forelands, both are same. And this is the whole process. How it looks is, the whole process is divided into three main stages: lithogenesis, orogenesis, and glyptogenesis. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.